Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman as much on a mission to gather a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world one character at a time as I am on helping you get the Zettelkasten of your dreams on your work table beside you. And I have another episode tonight. This one reaches back down memory lane, and it came about from the latest episode of the Zettelkast. If you haven't checked out the Zettelkast, LiLLiPub has its own YouTube channel now, and the Zettelkast is a group of 5 of us that get together to have a fun time going over how we use our Zettelkastens and showing just different fun activities so that you can get a better perspective on the many different ways that a Zettelkasten can exist and work for different people. Well, this particular episode, one of our activities was we were supposed to kind of take a trip down memory lane, either through some journals that we had never processed and bringing them into the Zettelkasten, or some early work. Well, for me, I did some archaeology into Zeke here. I pulled out a section of cards that went back to the earliest days of Zeke, and in the process, I discovered that I had made a rather bad error, and I had inadvertently created a clump of cards that were not having a chance to interact and contribute in any kind of a meaningful way past their earliest days of creation. And I wanted to share that with you because it was kind of an awful mistake. And then just to pair it with something a little more recent, I decided to share with you what happens in my Zettelkasten when time gets tight, which was another question that we were called to ask in the Zettelkast. And then you can go on over to the Zettelkast program if you want to see the full discussion. And I picked a different clump to share with you now than the one I shared on the Zettelkast. So I've got it all set up with a down-facing camera, so come on over and find out what I'm doing to repair a mistake that I made in the early days of the Zettelkasten. Talk to you over in the down-facing camera. Okay, here I am with a section that I pulled out of my Zettelkasten that has its roots in the earliest days. This is section 1M, the philosophy and the life of the mind. It's pretty extensive right now, but it began life as just a few cards in this area on the topic of philosophy and life of the mind, and I just gradually started dropping cards into this section. Any card that went into this section was numbered the same, 1M, 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 1M. And my rule of thumb to myself was when I added a new card into the section, I had to look through the existing cards and sort the new card in where it went, but I didn't need to number anything. They were all just 1M for the moment. Well, when it got to be around 12 cards or so, then my next job was to begin breaking it up into smaller clumps so that they would be easier to handle. And thus, it got divided when I broke it up into 5 sections. Now, the mechanism that I used, of course, lots of things got added since, it's way more than 12 cards here, but the rule of thumb was that after I divided the cards into little clumps, then I looked at the group of cards and I scanned them and I said, what title kind of describes all of these cards? And I came up with things like intelligence, AI, and the brain. This is an interesting one. Boredom, indifference, and uninterestedness. Learning, study, search, and so on. Then, when it came time to index them, my thought process was that, well, because they're all on the same subject, I can save time indexing and only need to index learning, study, search. I only need to index the clump. Won't that be a wonderful time saver? So here are the first 2 cards in the general letter L. And you can see from this one See these purple brackets? That tells me that these cards are directory cards, like this one. And in fact, here's the entry over on page 2 for this one, Learning, Study, Search. But look, it's got a symbol and the learning is underlined. That means, to me, that tells me that learning has been promoted and it's on a card of its own now. I don't like to cross things out. Scott says cross them out. I indicate this little symbol that it's been promoted, and then I underline the word. But here it is on the expanded card, Learn, Learned, Learning, and it's still just 1M3, Learning, Study, Search. Well, the problem with this card is that's not very exciting, and so it's difficult for new cards to come into the system and break into this group because the child cards just don't pick this one for its parent because it's simply not a complete thought, so there's nothing highly attractive about it. I refer to them as dead titles. To correct this problem, I'm gradually trying to bring even the very old cards up to my current system, adding my reaction, adding a tagline. This card has one, this one doesn't. And gradually adding directory cards so that I'm slowly trying to bring this system back up into my current ways of doing things. So my advice to you that I learned based on this, well, you probably won't be inclined to try the system of clumps and dividers. Effortless numbering is so easy, there's no point in making a side path like that. But the real thing to remember is to index every card. The place to make your selection isn't, well, should I index or not? The place to make the selection is, should it be a main card or not? Because if it isn't important enough to go into your index, then you might wonder, well, why are you bothering to make a main card for it? And that's kind of my new rule of thumb. So what's my current problem that I'm trying to work on? When I get busy, I tend sometimes to get the whole main card made up and wait on filing. It's my normal practice. I tend to wait on this task until the evening, but sometimes the evening gets away from me, and these can pile up as well. And when you get a bunch of them that need to be filed, it's starting to feel like a lot of homework. So don't forget to actually follow through and file those cards, because a card that hasn't been filed into your system can't interact with the other cards, and a card that hasn't been indexed can't interact. So don't make either of these two mistakes. Keep your file alive by indexing every card. So I hope that will help you get on the right path right away, and don't make the same mistakes that I made. Keep your index up to date. Keep your cards lively. That's how the magic happens in your box. And maybe you would like to see that episode of the LiLLiCast that gave rise to this topic. If you're interested, please come and join us on LiLLiPub in our YouTube channel. Join us at LiLLiPub.org, where we talk about all things Zettelkasten in the Zettelkasten circle, and look for us at LiLLiPub on YouTube, and join us for the latest episode of the Zettelcast. Bye-bye.